how do we grow rose seeds from these rose hips. These actually are not ready yet. We want to see rose hips that are red in color, that are ripe. These are not ripe yet. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you an example. We're going to take a couple of these. These are from some of the cuttings that we had from the earlier video, and we're going to just take our rose hip, and I'm on the grow bench here. Makes for a nice big cutting board here. I love it. So what we're going to do is just going to clean that rose hip off, so it's just down to the seed pod. And we're going to take our razor blade and we're just going to cut into it. And we're going to take the other side and we're going to cut into this. You actually cut right through it. If you've got several of these rose hips, you're not worried about damaging a seed or two. You can just cut right into it. As you can see here, these seeds are not all the way developed. So again, we've just hit this. You probably have about another 2-3 weeks. Here's our rose seed. As you can see here, these will actually turn like a little darker white color. And as you harvest these seeds out of here, this one probably has about 6, 7, 8 seeds in it. Just going to pull them out with your thumbnail. You can see them in there. That's actually a really nice seed right there. That may still grow. The key is, though, a lot of folks will try to harvest these and will try to grow them right away. You don't want to do that. These seeds need to have a cold period in the refrigerator. So your refrigerator, your crisper is perfect for those seeds. After you've harvested them, you let them dry out for a day. And after a day, you're going to place them in a Ziploc bag, place them into your refrigerator's crisper, and you're going to let them go through some cold dormancy. Basically what happens, it speeds up the growing process. There's a nice sized seed. So by placing them in the refrigerator, you're speeding up that growing process by taking them right into cold dormancy. You leave them sitting there for about a week to 3 weeks. And the seed will go dormant, and then it's ready to grow. So that's what's inside of a rose hip. You've got your seeds in there. A little premature. Needed a couple more weeks in the seed pod until that seed pod starts to turn pink to red, and then you can harvest the seeds. But basically, place them in the fridge for up to 3 weeks, then they're ready to grow. You'll find the growing instructions down below this video. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for stopping by, guys.
For rooting our rose cuttings, we will use Clonex cloning gel in this video. The link to get yourself a bottle shipped to your door is down below the video. First, you will want to trim your rows of choice cuttings down a bit. Get rid of the side branches, trim them to look like pretzel rods or pencil sticks. Once you have trimmed your rose cuttings down, the next step is to apply the Clonex cloning gel. Here we are using another bottle lid to conserve the gel and also eliminate contaminants in the bottle of the gel. Never dip your cuttings directly into the bottle to avoid contamination. Apply the Clonex gel to the bottom of the cuttings. Now you will need some newspaper to wrap your cuttings with. Start wrapping the cuttings tightly. You will want to cover most of the cutting with the newspaper, just leaving the tops of them exposed. Once you have the paper as tight as possible around your cuttings, go ahead and wet the paper with water only. First wet the entire newspaper and then squeeze excess water out of the paper to create a tight mold around the cuttings so less air can get in. We use a jar of water to dip the newspaper in, soak the newspaper thoroughly. This will be key as the roots will need steady moisture before starting to form and emerge. At this point, if your cuttings are too long, go ahead and cut them down a little more. Now for the final step. You will need a cup and an empty water bottle. Go ahead and cut the top of the water bottle off. You are going to use the cup to put the wrapped cuttings in, and then you will use the bottle to cover the cuttings, creating a mini greenhouse. The cup of cuttings can be placed in a sunny location with temperature never below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. The warmer the room temperature, the faster the roots will emerge. Do not let the paper dry out. You can place water in the bottom of the cup if you'll be away for a few days. Expect new roots within 30 to 60 days. Thank you for watching.
Growing roses from cuttings in some named varieties is very easy to do. Others will require a little help to get the roots started. You can use a rooting hormone to help promote roots to grow on your cuttings. The rooting hormone can come in a wax form, a gel, or a powder. Best root from Miracle-Gro is a powder that you can try for the easier varieties. If you have a variety that seems harder to get roots to grow, try Clonix Gel. This will help the hard-to-root rose cuttings, as it contains a higher percentage of indole-butyric acid, which is the active ingredient that stimulates root growth. Some varieties of roses can be cut back and placed in water without a rooting hormone and will root that way. You can also wrap your cuttings in wet newspaper or just place cuttings in the soil, keeping them damp. To help keep in the moisture, place a jar over top of them. Another tip is to place rose cuttings in a jar of water along with willow cuttings. The willow tree has a natural rooting hormone that lives in the wood. The hormone will seep into the water and be sucked up by the rose cutting, also promoting new roots to grow. After you have successfully rooted your rose cuttings, you can harden them off by potting them into pots and easing them into the sun slowly. Roses are grown in full sun to part shade, but prefer 8 hours of direct sunlight per day. Steps for planting roses. Loosen the soil and dig a hole twice the size of the root ball. Leave some loose soil below the root ball so that the roots can easily establish themselves. In colder climates you will want to dig deeper and set the rose bush base 2 inches below the soil line. Unlike many other plants, this can cause rot, but the rose bush will adapt. Do not prune roses in the fall. Simply cut off any dead or diseased canes. Stop fertilizing 6 weeks before the first frost, but continue watering during dry autumn weather to help keep plants fortified during the dry winter. Mound, mulch, or add compost after a few frosts but before the ground freezes. This will protect them during a bad and cold winter. Never fertilize a new rose bush with anything other than bone meal. The site you choose for your roses should have good drainage and 4-5 hours of sun. Do not overcrowd the area with other plants. Unless you are growing climbing roses, they do not mind company. The need for watering varies greatly throughout the year and is directly related to the amount of rain that has fallen. A newly planted rose bush needs water 2 to 3 times a week. An established rose plant needs water once a week. It is best to water as close to base of the rose as you can. Watering on foliage can lead to some diseases. Greenfly aphids and caterpillars are the most common pests. Greenfly and caterpillars can be removed by hand in the earliest stages. Rose Clear is effective against most pests along with black spot and powdery mildew. The link to the product is down below. We recommend you spray at the first sign of disease. There are 2 good reasons to deadhead: to encourage repeat flowering. This stops your rose producing seeds in the hips, which are formed after flowering, so that it has more energy for repeat flowering. It is an opportunity to shape your shrub. Deadheading should be done as soon after each flowering as possible up to late September.